Hey everybody, this is Damaris, and I do one-on-one mentorship for options trading, and this is my student Paolo. He has been in my mentorship program for 4 months now, and in this video, we're just gonna talk with him about his experience in my mentorship program. So, Paolo, just to get started, could you introduce yourself?
Yeah, my name is Paulo. I'm from the Bay Area. I've been in the Mars program for about 4 months now. Definitely learned a lot, just being in this program, especially like having that one-on-one mentorship with her. It was a lot of things that we went over, especially like with, all my trades, doing like different journal reviews. So it's been a lot, but definitely was a good learning experience, and I definitely want to continue getting mentored from you moving forward. Actually, so it's definitely something I'm going to continue. So yeah.
All right, awesome. Sounds good. And could you tell me a little bit more about your background before joining my mentorship program with trading?
Yeah, so I actually started the first time I started trading was actually in 2017. I took a mentorship from someone, and it wasn't something that I really um took seriously until like COVID started. And then when COVID started, I took on a bunch of mentorships from like Discord, and like a lot of them were like signal groups. And just in that experience alone, like there wasn't a lot of like one-on-one coaching. A lot of it was like group mentorships, and people going over like different PowerPoints. I never really got that like I never had that like customized like mentorship that allowed me to really identify like all these different mistakes that I was making. So that was definitely something that I needed like as I was learning how to trade. And when I found you, like I think going over my trades and reviewing all of them was something that really helped propel me like in my trading in general. So yeah.
All right, awesome. And before joining my mentorship program, how were you doing with your trading? Like, how was your trading performance?
My trading performance before was actually like very erratic. Like, I would get a lot of like there's some days where I get like a lot of big losses, and then I would get a lot of big gains. Like there was some instances where I would be consistent, but it was never like consistent throughout like the whole time, and I think for me it was just understanding like my mistakes, going through like my journal and stuff like that those are the things I have never really done before consistently until this program. So yeah.
Awesome. And now, after 4 months of one-on-one training, how is your trading performance?
I think it's pretty good. Like there's definitely a lot of things that helped me in the program. Like the risk management aspect, of course, was particularly the one that was helpful for me. Like going over my trades with you, understanding like my risk tolerance, being more selective with like the setups that I'm taking, like focusing more on the high quality setups and the risk reward. Like that in itself is like what really propelled me in my trading in general. Going over the reviews, I know there's a bunch of times when I think initially when I showed you my training journal, you mentioned you'd be like, hey, you're taking way too many trades, and that's why you're not able to like get an idea of like how your trading activity is, like what you're doing wrong. So those are the things are like the ones that really help me, identifying those common mistakes, refining my strategy, and like sticking to what works best for me is really what's helpful. I think for any trader too, like that is something that you need, when you want to learn how to trade and become more self-sufficient. So that's like the main component for me in the program.
Okay, awesome. I'm glad to hear about that. And let's say, what were those specific challenges that you were facing, those mistakes that you were making?
The specific ones for me is just like looking for multiple like confirmations. I think I remember we had this meeting once, and you were looking at my trades, and you mentioned you're like you would always ask me like, why would you take this trade, like, and I couldn't even come up with an answer for some of them. Like it was just something that I would just take just because of I saw like a green candle, or I saw like one confirmation. So for me, like looking for those clues, right? And I think a lot of my mistakes shows up in my journal, and a lot of them, you would like point out like different things that I would improve on, that I need to improve on. And just looking for those like confirmation, like not just trading just because you want to, get into a trade, but actually looking for um, confluence. And I think that for me was like the biggest part in the program.
Yeah, that's awesome. I'm really happy to hear about that. And now, when you take a trade, do you feel like it's your strategy and you know exactly what you're doing rather than just taking a trade for no reason?
Exactly. Exactly. Like you're actually looking for confluence, right? You're looking for confirmation. And just that in itself like gives you more confidence in your trade, right? And I think like for me, it's like I'm not gonna say like I'm super consistent or like the best trader out there, but it's just like something that anybody like would want to like have. You just having that mentorship and being able to have somebody review your trades, look at your journals, looking at your errors, those are something that you want to do like when you if you want to become a better trader and just execute better in general.
Mhm, mhm. Exactly. And would you say that, like, what are those specific aspects of my mentorship program that appeal to you and overall convince you to seek my guidance and continue with my guidance as well?
I think the course itself, the program itself, it's just really well organized and detailed. Like it just comes down to like trading is so could like it could be so like overwhelming when you're learning, especially as a beginner. So like having a program that's like super well organized and like detailed down to like the video, that is like what's really helpful. And I think for any beginner like that wants to start learning how to trade and become self-sufficient, like this is definitely like the program where you want to like become and start in and stuff. So like that in itself I think is really valuable.
Awesome. I'm really happy to hear that. And what was your like first initial impression of my mentorship when you first started?
When I first started, the fact that it's not on Discord was definitely like a good thing. I think like the school layout in itself is just, better. It's just more structured. Like I mentioned, like the previous like mentorships I've been into before, it's not as organized as this one. You're not able to kind of go through like the different and the collaboration also. Like that's a huge thing. Like being able to talk to other people, like looking at their trades, going on the one-on-one calls with you, the check-ins and stuff like that. That's a lot of like things that's not offered in other mentorships for sure.
Yeah, I completely understand. And when you joined the program, did you see any like immediate differences in either your trading approach or your mindset?
Yeah, I think for me, like when I joined the program and like I had that first call with you, like the first thing I knew was like I knew like I had to like step back and like kind of look at like what I'm doing. And I think a lot of main for me, one of the main things that I noticed like right from the bat was like a lot of my trades were green, but then a lot of my red ones was because I was just taking way too many trades, so that in itself like was something I didn't even really think about, when before I got into the program. So just having that person to tell you and go over your trades and like reviewing everything, kind of giving you like, a second pair of eyes on what you're doing is extremely helpful. At least for me, it was.
Yeah, okay, awesome. Awesome. So you were you able to combat that struggle of overtrading?
For sure, 100%. It's for sure that's coming from the journal, like just being consistent in the journal, like seeing what you're doing and reviewing. I think like just the journal itself, you have to be like really intentional about it, reviewing it, like going over your emotions and all that stuff. And I think your program itself, like when you do those check-ins, it kind of forces that person to do that. You know what I mean? Like, why did you take this trade? So that was really helpful. And also like the risk management aspect, like the sizing also, that was something that was really helpful, just understanding my sizing, being consistent with my sizing and looking for that like good risk to reward trade.
Yeah, so with that, how did you start managing your risk differently after my mentorship?
I was using a lot of tools actually that was available like on thinkorswim or TradingView. I would never use those tools before. That kind of helps me identify like what my risk to reward was. I think you go over that a lot too in like one of the modules, like understanding risk to reward, and that was a huge thing as well. Like I think that component itself like is helpful just to understand like how your sizing is and like when you're executing like how much you're risking. So that was really helpful, and I think that's a lot of things that like that component itself is something that a lot of people overlook. They don't really think about it. They just want to learn how to execute and trade. but it's definitely something that's important in the trading world. So yeah.
Yeah, exactly. I completely agree. At the end of the day, to become profitable at trading, it just comes down to your win rates and then your average win versus your average loss. That's literally all it is.
Right, exactly.
So with that, I mean, what is your current win rate?
I think right now it's about like 68%. Yeah. So
Okay.
a lot less trading. Like that is the one thing that you would see like in the journals, like a lot of less trading. Sometimes I wouldn't even take a trade. And then there's there's days where like in the past I would take a trade every single day. And sometimes it's sometimes like for me, I will work a full-time job. So like there's some days where I would miss like the trade opportunity, and it's just like understanding that there's nothing there and being able to sit down and just like wait for an opportunity or wait for a trade to present itself is something that I wasn't able to do in the past. So, now it's just like being patient, understanding that, and um just waiting for those quality setups.
Yeah. And I would say the biggest factor in combating that is because previously you were impatient, you were taking many setups, but the reason why you're impatient is because you didn't exactly know what you had to be patient for. You didn't know what you were looking for. And now, you know exactly what you're looking for. So it allows you to be patient and wait for that exact setup.
Exactly. Yeah, for sure. I think for me too, like to add on to that is like the supply demand. I think I remember when I first met you, like I wanted to like that was the first thing that I wanted to focus on. I was like, hey, like I want to understand more about like how supply demand works, and like just going over like my mental and like psychology and everything. So those were like huge for me. I think for any beginner, like it would be useful for them to like go through the whole course. But for me, it was like more of like the risk management side, just mindset in general, when it comes to trading.
Exactly. Exactly. So, and is there any key takeaways from my mentorship or the strategies that you've learned that have significantly improved your trading?
For me, it's really like the supply and demand. I think that's something that I still need to work on also, but having that mentorship with you, like going over, validating my supply and demand zones, also like the trade ideas too that I have, going through like the entries and exits with you, and like you pointing out like the different errors and all the different mistakes, common mistakes at least, and just helping me with like refining my strategy in general. I think that's something that's not offered at like it's not something that's rare. It's really offered in other mentorships, like just having that one-on-one mentorship that's able that where the mentor is able to like go through all your trades, was something that was useful for me.
Is there anything that you learned perspective wise that changed in your trading? Is your trading perspective different now?
Definitely. Definitely. Like I mentioned, like I think back in the day, like you're more focused on like just making money. And when you come from like a group of like a Discord group giving signals all the time, like it really changes your perspective if you really want to learn how to trade. Right. And I think a lot of I don't want to talk about like your program too much, but it's essentially like a lot of that mindset psychology aspect covered in that program. And that's a lot of things that, like I mentioned before, like it's completely overlooked when it comes to trading. I think most people like they just want to understand how to learn how to press a button and like how do I buy and sell, right? I just want to make money. And the program really goes through like the psychology behind trading. So if you want to become self-sufficient, you want to be, you want to be able to trade and execute yourself, like that aspect is like super important. And that was like the biggest probably takeaway for me. Like risk management was probably like the main thing that I wanted to focus on going into this program, and it was definitely like the right decision, coming to that. So yeah.
All right, awesome. And lastly, is there any advice or words of wisdom that you would want to share with individuals who are considering to learn to trade, or especially those considering my mentorship program?
Yeah, definitely. I'm gonna say like the course can feel very overwhelming. It's like taking a college class, essentially. Like there is a lot of information. It's like an extensive amount of information to cover. But I think, especially like with the support, with your support and the effort that you put in, it could definitely impact positively, like impact your trading. I think it's important to be like patient, continuing to learn and just be intentional about your learning, and eventually like everything will become second nature to you. I think it's just time, you know, eventually like you put enough time into this and everything will just click for you, especially like, you know, with your mentor and your mentorship and your guidance as well. So yeah.
Awesome. Thank you for sharing all of that, Paolo. And
Yeah.
I appreciate everything that you had to say.
Thank you. Thank you.